Hey there, gearheads. Thomas here, and today we're diving into a common problem that can leave you scratching your head: faulty ignition coils. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more automotive tips and tricks. Let's get straight to the point and break down the symptoms, so you can diagnose this issue like a pro. First off, what exactly is an ignition coil? Simply put, it's the component that takes your car's low voltage battery power and converts it into the high voltage spark needed to ignite the fuel in your engine's cylinders. When it goes bad, you're in for a rough ride, literally. Let's start with one of the most obvious signs: the dreaded check engine light. If you see that glowing on your dashboard, don't ignore it. It could be your car's way of telling you there's an ignition coil problem. But here's the thing: a check engine light can mean a lot of different issues, so you'll want to dig deeper. This brings us to OBD codes. If you've got an OBD2 scanner, you might see one of these three codes pop up: P0300. This is your generic random multiple cylinder misfire detected code. It's like your engine saying, hey, something's not right, but I can't pinpoint exactly where. P0301 to P0308. These codes are more specific, indicating a misfire in a particular cylinder. For example, P0303 would mean cylinder 3 is misfiring. P0350, this one's pretty straightforward: ignition coil, primary, secondary circuit malfunction. It's basically your car telling you, yep, it's definitely an ignition coil issue. Now, let's talk about what you might actually feel when you're driving. One of the most common symptoms is engine misfires. What does that feel like? Well, imagine you're driving along smoothly, and suddenly your car starts to jerk or stumble. It might feel like the engine is skipping a beat. This happens because one or more cylinders aren't firing properly due to the faulty coil. Another symptom you might notice is rough idling. When you're stopped at a red light, your car should purr like a kitten. But with a bad ignition coil, it might feel more like an angry bobcat. The engine might shake, or you might hear it sputtering. This is because the misfires are more noticeable when the engine isn't under load. Let's talk about performance. If you've got a lead foot like me, you'll definitely notice this next symptom: poor acceleration. When you step on the gas, your car might hesitate or feel like it's struggling to pick up speed. This is because the engine isn't firing on all cylinders, quite literally. You're losing power, and your car's performance takes a hit. Now, for all you fuel economy enthusiasts out there, here's something that'll make you cringe: reduced gas mileage. A faulty ignition coil can cause your engine to burn fuel less efficiently. So if you're noticing more frequent trips to the pump, it might be time to check those coils. Here's a symptom that might catch you off guard: difficulty starting the engine. You turn the key, and instead of roaring to life, your engine cranks and cranks, but won't start. Or maybe it starts, but then immediately stalls out. This can happen because the ignition coil isn't providing enough spark to get the engine running properly. Speaking of stalling, that's another red flag. You could be cruising down the highway, and suddenly your engine cuts out. Not only is this annoying, but it can also be dangerous. Now let's talk about something you might hear: engine backfires. If your car starts making loud popping sounds, especially when you're decelerating, that could be a sign of a failing ignition coil. It happens when unburned fuel makes its way into the exhaust system and ignites there. Not only does it sound bad, but it can also damage your exhaust system if left unchecked. Last but not least, let's talk about overall loss of power. This isn't just about acceleration. Your car might feel sluggish all the time, struggling up hills or when carrying a heavy load. It's like your engine is running on fewer cylinders than it should be, which in fact, it might be if one or more ignition coils are failing. So how do you check for a faulty ignition coil? Well, that's a topic for another video. But here's a quick tip. If you've got a multimeter and you're comfortable working under the hood, you can test the resistance of your ignition coils. Just make sure to consult your vehicle's service manual for the correct specifications. Remember, ignition coils can fail individually or in groups. Sometimes replacing just one coil can solve the problem. Other times you might need to replace the whole set. It often depends on the age and mileage of your vehicle. Alright, gearheads, that wraps up our deep dive into the symptoms of faulty ignition coils. I hope this helps you diagnose any ignition issues you might be facing.